But ladies and gentlemen, we now come to our final event here for round one of the 2018 Bambino Kart Club Championship and Interkart Championships here at Whilton Mill in Daventry. It's the one that we've been waiting for quite a time. We are still running about 15 or 20 minutes behind schedule in terms of starting times, but it's now time for the IAME Bambino BKC A final. There are several drivers I know are definitely in contention for today, and most of them are going to be in the top 8, and some of them have been featuring very, very well in the last couple of heats. So, without further ado, it is time to go through a starting grid for the final time here on the live stream on Downforce UK's official Facebook page. Thank you for everybody for sharing, tuning in, and also for Downforce UK's audio broadcast on Spreaker in 2 parts. So thank you very much to everybody for tuning in. Right, so the IAME Cadet final result is currently under review, and it will be under review after we get the IAME Bambino A final underway. So 20 competitors in all. And there's a couple of drivers I'm quite surprised at of where they're starting. So in a moment we will go through the grid for the final time here on both the live stream and also the audio stream on Downforce UK. So as I said earlier on, thank you very much for everyone tuning in on both platforms as they get the engines underway. So for the final time here on Mothering Sunday, which is Sunday, March 11th, 2018, let's go through the grid. The grid for the final time here for the Bambino IAME A final. So on pole position is Connor Scarisbrick with Mason Thurlow in the 29. Going in second, then it's George Davison and Jack Fowler, row 2. Cole Glover, Joe Lewis, row 3. Jacob Ashcroft and Sky Parker, row 4. Henry Domain and Laith Khan, row 5. Danny Bonner and Riley Wright, row 6. Senna Blue Breslin and Jack Robinson, row 7. Riley Cranham and Max Hall, row 8. Now that's a surprise, Riley Cranham being at the bottom part of the pack. Ethan Woodward and Rari Breen, row 9, and Teddy Woodard and Thomas Clark rounding out the 20 strong. So drivers making their way around to the grid for the final time. So the rain hasn't, as Connor Scarisbrick comes to view on and misses his grid slot a little bit. Father Paul there getting him back into position, ready ahead of his final race of the day. I tell you what, he's one to watch this season, Connor Scarisbrick from Ormskirk. I think Riley Cranham is going to find that it's going to be... and there we go, we've got the other person on the front row, Mason Thurlow, the number 29. Both drivers on Wright chassis, as in Wright, the kart manufacturer. So here we go. Drivers are prepped and awaiting instructions from Championship Coordinator Darren Beavers, who's on the start-finish line with the start your engines and 5-second board in his hand. So... right, so for the final time we're about to go racing as one of the back markers gets pushed back into the proper grid position. So we're just waiting. It's a 20-strong grid on this particular occasion. So engines have now been started. Grid is cleared. Five-second board, red lights, and we are green for the final time here at Whilton Mill today on March 11th. So all 20 stream down towards turn one for the very first time of asking. It's 3, it's 4 wide. So up the hill they go for the first time. Conor Scarisbrick clearly in the lead of this race. So could that be, I think that's George Davison. George Davison has just gone from third to second. And I'm trying to keep an eye on these karts as we've got one kart slowing at the back end of the field. Oh, that was very close. Very close. One kart is creeping to a halt. That looks to be Laith Khan, I'm afraid. The number 11 comes to a halt. So Jack Fowler looks to be in third or fourth place at the minute. So 29, that's Mason Thurlow now down into third position. Jack Fowler. George Davison looks to have completed the fastest lap of this race so far. He's only 0.4 of a second, but he's having to defend notably from both Jack Fowler and also Mason Thurlow. We've got 6.5 minutes plus an additional lap. And good thing is Laith Khan is out of the kart. He's been escorted to safety. And drivers will be shown yellow flags going into turn 7. Or turn 6. So drivers will have to adhere to race control regulations, and if they overtake under yellows, a penalty of some description will be thrown their way. So 6 minutes plus an additional lap. Leaders coming through into... Oh, we've had a red flag. Red flag stoppage. Red flag stoppage. Red flag, red flag. Race has been red flagged with about 6.5 minutes plus an additional lap. So all medics have been called. We will go off air very... medic has been called. Medic has been called. So for all those watching on the on the video stream on the Downforce UK page. We've just had the red flag called. Medic car was also called, which has just gone back into position. So I think just really it was about safety precautions more than anything. I'm not too sure. Now there are two carts just up at the top of the hill, just off of turn 6. So as you can see, we're just keeping our camera feed on the start-finish line at the moment. Laith is actually up and walking, so which is a good thing. So I don't really know what happened with the incident. Would have been out of my line of sight, so I can't really comment. So hopefully very soon we should be able to get things back underway to resume the Bambino IAME. Oh, okay, so Laith Khan's cart has just been brought onto the grid and plonked down. So it looks like Laith Khan will be rejoining the race after all. So that's good to see. As you can see, he's on the he's got the Union Jack helmet and the very muddy white race suit. So in gets Laith. So good to see the number 11 back on there. So what they're going to have to do is we're going to have a resumption of the race. So whether they decide to looks like they're going to be getting them back into grid positions. Now, whether this was probably at the lap before red flag was called, which I would imagine so. So they'll put them in the relevant grid positions that they were in. So, and I can see Riley Cranham trying to make his way through the middle of the grid at the minute. I can't miss those overalls and that very resplendent paint job he's had done on his race helmet this year. When I remember him being at the IAME Bambino Festival at Rye House a few weeks ago, it was very different in the fact that he had a very grey race suit. And there is George Davison, one of 3 drivers as part of the Limits Racing stable. Henry Domain is one of them as well. I can't remember the other one for the life of me, but George and Henry have both come from the Rye House School of Karting. From the IKR Championship, and you can see there's a few scuffs and a few battle scars, let's say, on the front left of that Nassau plate. But I have to say I'm very impressed with how George has composed himself, and there's his dad on the left. So it's now about a case of getting back into the zone. We will have a resumption once they clear the track and make sure that everything's all okay, ready for the final time this afternoon. So we're just waiting for any further indication from race control as to when proceedings will get back underway for the final time today. Right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get our Bambino IAME A final back underway. Lights are on the gantry, red lights are on there, engines have now been restarted, grid has been cleared. Looks like we're going to be resuming. 5-second board is on, lights are about to go out, and we are off and racing once again. It's the BKC IAME Bambino A final, and great move. George Davison, where did that one come from? Just chopped the nose off of Connor Scarisbrick for the lead of that race. I tell you what, he got the whole shot there, the number 45. Well done. Brilliant job. And it's a four-way scrap at the front of this field. Now, you could possibly soon make that 5 because Jacob Ashcroft, who started in 7th position, is now 5th out on the road, and whilst the 3 in front of him is squabbling, and we've got a spinner at the back of the pack. So drivers coming through into the boot at the moment as we speak. So George Davison leads the way. Henry Domain has got a, I think, a contact warning there. So it looks to be we've got George Davison, Connor Scarisbrick and Jack Fowler as your top 3 at the moment as it stands. Cole Glover, I think, is factoring into this as well. He should be 4th out on the road. Or is that somebody completely different? I'm trying to... It looks to be Jack Fowler. So Jack Fowler, 4th on the road, is challenging Mason Thurlow for 3rd place. Cole Glover's down in 6th position. Sky Parker, incredible job by the number 48, is 7th. Riley Wright is also doing a great job, currently in 8th position. As it looks like there's going to be a change, and Jack Fowler goes up the inside of Mason Thurlow for 3rd position. Coming out of turn 7 and 8, down into the boot they go. So it's Davison from Scarisbrick, from Thurlow, from Fowler, from Ashcroft, from Glover, Parker, Wright, Lewis and Domain. That's your top 10 at the moment. 3 minutes and 47 seconds to go. Jack Fowler's just gone quickest of anybody. So the 2 leaders are getting away, and Connor Scarisbrick is measuring up George Davison and goes up the inside of turn number 4 to take the lead of this race. And looks like, I'm just trying to make it out on the footage at the moment that we've got, it's Scarisbrick from, oh, and that was a very sideways moment for George Davison. He's lost a handful of places there, a handful of places, which includes Jack Fowler. I think Mason Thurlow's gone through. Has Jacob Ashcroft got in front? No, he hasn't. So it's Scarisbrick from Thurlow, from Davison. You've then got Fowler, Ashcroft, Cole Glover. 2 3/4 minutes plus an additional lap left to go here at Whilton Mill to conclude the day's action. And they are putting on a great display of driving prowess, as Jacob Ashcroft was very close to Cole Glover there. Well, Cole Glover it's gone nearly 4 wide up into turn 4, up at the top of the hill. And Scarisbrick in the process has lost out on the lead. Mason Thurlow's now got the lead of this race with 2 minutes and 12 seconds plus an additional lap. George Davison now in 3rd position. Then it's Jack Fowler, then Jacob Ashcroft, then Cole Glover. Leaders coming through into the boot once again. It is fast becoming close to a 5-way scrap for the lead, but Thurlow has got quite a few kart lengths. I would say probably around 5 or 6 between himself and Connor Scarisbrick, who's coming under increased pressure from George Davison. It's now 9/10 of a second between Davison and Thurlow, who's leading at the minute with just under 90 seconds plus an additional lap to go. Jack Fowler still in 4th ahead of Cole Glover. And a few kart lengths or so back, you've got Henry Domain and Sky Parker battling over what is effectively 7th position. And down at the back, we've also got quite a few other drivers. I think I spotted Fraser Anderson, so he would have been promoted as a result. It looks like the top 4 from the B final went through into the A final, so Fraser Anderson is one of them. Currently running in 16th place ahead of Senna Blue Breslin. So we've got just over 30 seconds plus an additional lap. So let's see if we can catch up with where our leaders are at the moment. And George Davison has now got past Connor Scarisbrick for 2nd place, so must have done that in the last part of the track. Ladies and gentlemen, the top 5, that's Mason Thurlow, George Davison, Connor Scarisbrick, Jack Fowler and Cole Glover are all separated by next to nothing. 1.4 seconds. So the time is about to tick away. So the time has counted down. The next time our leaders come around, they're coming through into the mid part of the track. As we've got a great battle, this is five-way scrap between, looks like Fraser Anderson, Joe Lewis, I think, is involved there at the back of that train. Riley right there as well. Leaders coming through. So let's just keep an eye on our leaders. So just going to try and pick up Mason Thurlow, who's just come across the start-finish line. Connor Scarisbrick is followed. He's now back past George Davison for 2nd. They're coming up the hill for the final time of asking. It is the last lap of the race day. And Scarisbrick is going past. Is Scarisbrick going past into the lead? He takes the lead up at the top of turn 4. So he's waited, bided his time, but Mason Thurlow will have to try and get an answer back very quickly. Down into turn 6. And it's still a 6-way scrap for the lead with Jacob Ashcroft at the tail end, Charlie. But I have to say, credit where credit is due. He's done very well. He's kept himself consistent this weekend. But George Davison has been one of the standout drivers. Connor Scarisbrick, however, is fast approaching the boot for the final time today. And, is this going to be a last-ditch manoeuvre from Mason Thurlow? Oh, he takes the lead with 3 corners to go. So the top 4 are now coming through, and it's going to be the checkered flag. Who's going to take it? Mason Thurlow by a whisker, by 0.082 of a second. Jack Fowler takes 3rd. George Davison takes 4th. Jacob Ashcroft gets 5th ahead of Henry Domain. Sky Parker finished 7th ahead of Cole Glover. Whew. And I'm out of breath. Not quite out of voice, but out of breath. But what a fantastic way to round off round 1 of the 2018 Bambino Kart Club and Interkart Championships meeting here at Whilton Mill Kart Circuit in Daventry, Northamptonshire. So, I think, and here comes Logan Howes, got into the final himself, thanks to that 4th place finish in the B final. So, without further ado, let's go through the finishing order, I think, reference that particular race, which was very, very entertaining. Mason Thurlow wins the IAME Bambino A final by just 0.082 of a second, ahead of Connor Scarisbrick, the number 08. Jack Fowler in the 99 finishes on 3rd position, ahead of George Davison and Jacob Ashcroft. Henry Domain, Sky Parker was in 7th, ahead of Cole Glover, Thomas Clark and Lewis Stannard, with Riley Cranham coming all the way back from 15th to finish 11th, with Ethan Woodward, Max Hawlaw and Joe Lewis rounding out the top 14. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. We've just completed our first race meeting of the 2018 Bambino Kart Club and Interkart Championships round here at Whilton Mill in Daventry. The weather has kept away for the majority of the day, but we've had great action. We've had great spectacle. We've had controversial moments. It does happen in racing.